Good evening. Welcome to Friday's 6-1.
The headlines this evening. Breakthrough in Cameron Riley investigation. An 18-year-old is arrested in connection with the murder.
Consultant said for cash bonus as protracted contract row is resolved.
This will help us to retain more consultants in the hospital system and will help us to deliver better patient care.
Dublin man James Quinn is found guilty of involvement in the Costa del Sol murder that sparked the deadly Dublin feud.
And 17 million reasons to be happy. 32 colleagues in a Tipperary syndicate collect their jackpot.
See all the media outside, I mean, that's something you see on the news. It doesn't happen to us, so it's brilliant.
Gardaí in County Louth are continuing to question an 18-year-old arrested in connection with the death of Cameron Riley in Dunleer last month. A murder investigation was launched after a post-mortem examination found that the student had suffered a violent death. Well, our reporter Diane Connor is in Drogheda and joins us now. Diane? Is Diane there? We have Diane. Diane, this teenager, he was arrested at around 7 o'clock this morning, as I understand it, in Dunleer. Where is the investigation at presently?
Yes, he was arrested at 7 a.m. and brought here to Drogheda Garda Station for questioning. He's being detained under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act, meaning he can be questioned and detained for up to 24 hours. The first period of 12 hours is up at 7 o'clock in about 45 minutes, but I understand the superintendent will be applying to extend that period of detention for a further 12 hours. Now, the clock can stop to allow for some rest and break times, so that I'm sure will happen over the course of the night. Gardaí carried out many interviews over the past 3 weeks, but this is the first arrest since the murder of Cameron Riley. Cameron Riley was last seen in the vicinity of RD Road in Dunleer in the early hours of Saturday, the 26th of May. Later that morning at 8 a.m, his body was found in a field on the edge of the town by a man walking his dog. A post-mortem indicated he suffered a violent death. Gardaí launched a murder investigation and tried to piece together his final movements. The 18-year-old first-year business student at Dundalk Institute of Technology had been out socialising the night before, and Gardaí were anxious to speak to young people who were in his company. CCTV footage was examined, and Gardaí appealed for help locating Cameron's mobile phone. Detectives believed the Apple iPhone 8 could be critical to the investigation. Residents and business owners were asked to check their bins in case the phone was dumped in one. The Garda Water Unit, Army units and Louth Fire and Rescue Service joined in the search, which included draining the reservoir in Dunleer, but his phone has not been found. Since Cameron Riley's murder, locals have joined detectives in appealing for anyone with information about what happened that night to contact Gardaí. In a press statement today, Gardaí said their investigations are ongoing. Diane Connor, RTE News, Drogheda, County Louth.
Thousands of hospital consultants are set for significant pay increases now that their breach of contract case against the HSE and the state has been settled. The deal will cost the state about €187 million in retrospective payments and will add around €60 million to the annual consultant pay bill into the future. The Minister of Finance, Paschal Donohoe, described it as the most cost-effective and least worst outcome for the Exchequer and the taxpayer.
It was a contract for consultants described as a visionary document, but a decade-long row over its implementation ended in the High Court. 700 consultants sued for breach of contract after their promised pay rises never materialised amid the financial collapse. Today, 10 lead cases were settled and agreement reached for thousands more employed on the 2008 contracts. By 2022, when additional cuts imposed under FEMPI are restored, consultants who only do public sector work will see pay go from $180,000 to $252,000 a year. Those who have limited private practice will see salaries rise from $170,000 to $225,000. 55% of the back pay owed will be paid in 2 stages at a cost of $200 million, and the annual pay bill for consultants will rise by $60 million.
We're delighted at the settlement now. The health sector employers have recognised that the terms of the 2008 contract need to be fully implemented, and this will help us to retain more consultants in the hospital system and will help us to deliver better patient care and more patient care for all those patients who are on waiting lists.
We're pleased on behalf of consultants in Ireland who were affected by the failure to pay the full 2008 contract. But we see this very much as a starting point, because our colleagues who've been appointed since 2012 are still disadvantaged by the 30% cut. And we really need that to be addressed so that we can move on the recruitment and retention challenges that we have at consultant level in Ireland.
Health Minister Simon Harris said the deal also means doctors will be held to account on their contractual obligations.
Whilst the overwhelming majority of consultants work well above and beyond their hours, I really do want to acknowledge that people work extraordinarily hard in the public health service. It's important that where people don't, or where people breach that's called out and that's addressed.
The Minister for Finance, Paschal Donoghue, said today's settlement offered the best option for the taxpayer and provided certainty for the Exchequer. Already today, though, other sectors such as primary school teachers were pointing to this agreement and saying we're next. Vivian Traynor, RTE News at the High Court.
Still to come, Prince Charles visits the Kingdom, a day of history, music and dance for the royal couple in County Kerry.
And coming up in sport, no Salah. Egypt are beaten by Uruguay on day 2 of the World Cup. And conditions still challenging the players at the US Open. World number 1 Dustin Johnson very much the man to catch.
A jury in Spain has found 35-year-old James Quinn guilty of involvement in the murder of Gary Hutch, who was shot dead in Marbella in 2015. The killing sparked the ongoing Hutch-Kinahan feud. James Quinn will be sentenced in the coming weeks. The head of the Garda Special Crime Operations Unit described the conviction as a positive development in the effort to tackle organised crime.
James Quinn from Dublin was on trial for the murder of 34-year-old Gary Hutch, who was chased by a gunman around a swimming pool in a residential complex in Marbella in September 2015 and shot 15 times. Accompanied by a number of police officers, his lawyer and his translator, James Quinn received the jury verdict just before 3:30 Irish time. The jury found him guilty of acting as a necessary participant in the shooting of Mr Hutch, ruling he was the getaway driver that day. They found the gunman wore a balaclava, meaning his identity was disguised, but DNA on a baseball cap found in the burned-out getaway car was Mr Quinn's. Gary Hutch's murder sparked the ongoing deadly Hutch-Kinahan feud. Mr Quinn was also found guilty of possession of illegal weapons discovered in a bedroom in the apartment in which he was allegedly living. He was remanded to prison and will be sentenced in a few weeks' time. He could face up to 28 years for the convictions. James Quinn's lawyers said they will appeal the verdicts. In a statement this evening, Garda Assistant Commissioner John O'Driscoll described the trial outcome as a very positive development. Joe McGrady, RTE News.
The Taoiseach has said that he has no interest in a snap election. He said that if Fianna Fáil wants to bring about a general election by refusing to renew the confidence and supply agreement, or if Sinn Féin wants to do this through a motion of no confidence in the Minister for Housing, then they will be the cause of an election.
The Taoiseach was in high spirits, announcing jobs at a storage facility in his constituency today. When he returned back down to firmer ground, he was asked about the prospect of an election later this year in light of a potential Sinn Féin no confidence motion in the Housing Minister, which Fianna Fáil hasn't ruled out supporting.
I have no interest in a snap election. My focus is on securing jobs in the economy, negotiating Brexit, building more houses and dealing with some of the issues in healthcare. But if Fianna Fáil wants to cause an election by refusing to renew the constant supply agreement, or if Sinn Féin wants to cause it through a motion of no confidence, well, they will be the cause of it.
For Sinn Féin and Fianna Fáil, the cause of their concern is Minister Eoin Murphy's handling of the housing crisis. The Taoiseach and Minister Murphy have said that the government is doing what it can to tackle the housing crisis, but they have acknowledged this week that more needs to be done. Those sentiments were echoed by the Irish Human Rights Commission and the ESRI today when they published this joint report, which examines whether certain groups of people here in Ireland are discriminated at a higher level when they're trying to access housing. The Human Rights Commission and the ESRI looked at issues such as gender, age, nationality, family status like lone parents, disability, the travelling community and those receiving housing payments.
There is a housing crisis, but there's also a crisis within that crisis. And from a housing policy point of view, what needs to happen is that housing policy needs to recognise the diversity of the Irish population now and have a diverse policy that responds to their needs.
The Commission says a one-size-fits-all approach to housing will not work into the future. But right now the supply of housing is the government's immediate priority. Alba Keneally, RTE News.
US President Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, has been jailed by a judge in Washington. He's been accused of trying to tamper with potential witnesses before his trial on charges of money laundering and illegal lobbying. Meanwhile, President Trump has praised the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, saying they now have a good relationship and have even exchanged phone numbers.
I'm doing an interview over here. US President Donald Trump wasn't supposed to have any media engagements today, but when he saw his favourite TV show Fox and Friends broadcasting from the White House lawn, he decided to do an impromptu interview. He said that the North Korea problem had been solved following this week's summit, and he praised Kim Jong-un.
He is the strong head. Don't let anyone think anything different. Right. He speaks and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same.
In a follow-up interview, he was asked about his praise of the North Korean leader.
You're defending now Kim Jong-un's human rights records. How can you do that?
You know why? Because I don't want to see a nuclear weapon destroy you and your family.
Well, and by the way,
I have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un. That's a very important thing.
But they
I can now
wait.
I can now call him. I can now say, well, we have a problem. I told him, I gave him a very direct number. He can now call me if he has any difficulty. I can call him.
President Trump also said today that he had been totally exonerated by a Justice Department report which was critical of the former FBI Director James Comey's handling of an investigation into Hillary Clinton's email use. The US President accused top FBI officials of plotting against him. Donald Trump's former campaign chairman Paul Manafort was back in court today. A judge revoked his bail and ordered that he be jailed over allegations of witness tampering. President Trump once again today distanced himself from Paul Manafort, saying he only worked on his campaign for a very short time. Ryan O'Donovan, RTE News, Washington.
Here at home, a bin man who suffered a severe brain injury after he was thrown from a waste disposal van has settled a High Court action for €3.5 million. Benjamin Heffernan, who fell through the side door of the van, fractured his skull in the fall. He then underwent emergency surgery and spent many months in rehab. The court heard that the 50-year-old will never work again.
The editor of the Irish Independent, Fionn Sheehan, has rejected an allegation that he referred to the whistleblower Sergeant Maurice McCabe as a paedophile during a conversation with a colleague. Former Sunday Independent editor Anne Harris has told the Disclosures Tribunal that Mr Sheehan made the remark to her 4 years ago.
Fionn Sheehan said today that when he's alleged to have made this comment, he was instead advocating positive coverage of Sergeant Maurice McCabe in independent newspapers. 2 weeks ago, the former editor of the Sunday Independent, Anne Harris, told the tribunal that in September 2014, Fionn Sheehan told her that Sergeant McCabe was a paedophile. She said it was stated as a fact rather than someone engaging in gossip. Fionn Sheehan denied ever making the comment, and he said it was curious Miss Harris did not cite a date. Anne Harris's lawyer asked Fionn Sheehan whether he was saying that she was abusing the tribunal, set up at great cost to the public, by trying to ventilate a grudge against him. Mr Sheehan said he was saying that. He said she was hunting headlines, and he said she was disgruntled at her departure from independent newspapers. Anne Harris has denied she was disgruntled or that she had a grudge. Also today, the inquiry heard that Sergeant Maurice McCabe is standing over an allegation that Noreen O'Sullivan was behind a series of RTE broadcasts on the O'Higgins Commission report. Today, Garda Executive Head of HR, John Barrett, said he never told Sergeant McCabe that the broadcasts must have come from Miss O'Sullivan. He said he made no such remark and he had no written record of it. And Mr Justice Peter Charlton said RTE crime correspondent Paul Reynolds had completely refuted the allegation in his evidence.
Sandra Hurley, RTE News, Dublin Castle.
A 19-year-old County Limerick man who fell from an apartment balcony in Santa Ponsa in Mallorca in the early hours of last Tuesday morning has died in hospital. Jack Walsh, who was from Askeaton, had flown out to the Spanish island last Monday to join friends after he'd completed a leaving certificate exam. Police in Mallorca are investigating the circumstances of the accident.
The risk of a sudden negative change in financial market conditions has increased during the first few months of this year, according to the central bank. The warnings come as US President Donald Trump moved to impose additional tariffs on Chinese imports.
Twice a year, the central bank produces a formal warning of risks to the Irish economy. Today, it's raised the risk level on 3 of the 6 trigger events it monitors: trade wars, corporation tax rules and political instability in Europe, leading to financial market volatility. And there's the ongoing risk from Brexit. Why the rising concern? We'll just look at the last few weeks.
Northern Ireland is so small, there are so few firms that actually use that border regularly. It's just beyond belief.
We're like the piggy bank that everybody's robbing, and that ends.
And when the new Italian government tried to appoint a Eurosceptic finance minister, the cost of Italian government borrowing went up, pulling borrowing costs for Spain and Portugal with it. Don't forget, Ireland has to refinance €40,000 million of government debt over the next 2.5 years. So don't get complacent because our economy is doing well for now.
Predominantly the risks, I think, are international, and this is particularly so because Ireland is a small open economy and can really, I suppose, be hit by these international risks if they were to crystallise.
But a strong Irish economy carries its own risks of overheating and losing competitiveness, so the central bank's advising government to be cautious with its budget plans, to keep some cash aside for when the going gets tough. Sean Whelan, RTE News.
The EastEnders actor Leslie Grantham has died at the age of 71. Best known for his role as Dirty Den Watts, he first starred in the soap between 1985 and 1989 and spoke the first line in the first episode. His character then returned from the dead in 2003, but was later written off amid an off-screen scandal in 2005. He lived in Bulgaria for the past few years and returned recently to receive medical treatment in the UK.
A group of workers from a hardware shop in Thurles, County Tipperary, who scooped €17 million in a Euro Millions draw, have collected their winnings. The syndicate from Stakelham Home and Hardware Store will each get over €500,000.
Congratulations. It was just after midday when the bus pulled up and out they got. 32 winners in all, here to collect their prize. It was a €17 million jackpot. Divided equally, each member will get around €530,000. Not bad for Brian Sheehy. His bank account was €16 overdrawn when he found out he was a winner. Today, praise for the syndicate's organiser.
This man's a legend, lads. It's surreal, just unreal that, you know, to wake up in the morning and go into work minus €16 overdrawn in your bank account and to find out that you won over $500,000. Oh my God.
And for many, the win is still sinking in.
Oh, sure, absolutely fantastic. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, even getting off the bus, see all the media outside. Like, I mean, that's something you see on the news. It doesn't happen to us, like, you know, so it's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
It was, though, bittersweet for some, as around half of the employees were in the syndicate, the other half were not.
Yeah, you know, I do, I suppose, feel sorry might be a strong word, but, you know, at the end of the day, if you're not in, you can't win. You know that kind of way, so, of course, gutted for them.
Woo! And while some may have lost the run of themselves, it's mostly cars and holidays on the shopping lists. And all said they would be returning to their jobs. Some, though, may be a little late. Conor Hunt, RTE News.
Coming up, we'll have more on that multi-million euro back pay settlement between hospital consultants and the state. We'll be speaking with Dr. Padder Gilligan, president of the Irish Medical Organisation.
And no wall too high. A Limerick dance company scales new heights.
Welcome back. The main stories this evening. Gardaí in County Louth are continuing to question an 18-year-old arrested in connection with the death of Cameron Riley in Dunleer last month. A murder investigation was launched after a post-mortem examination found the student had suffered a violent death.
In Spain, a jury has found an Irishman guilty of involvement in the murder of Gary Hutch on the Costa del Sol 3 years ago. 35-year-old James Quinn from Dublin was found guilty of acting as a necessary participant in the shooting and also guilty of possession of illegal weapons. He is due to be sentenced in the coming weeks.
Thousands of hospital consultants are set to receive significant pay increases now that their breach of contract case against the HSE and the state has been settled. The deal will cost the state €187 million in retrospective payments and will add €62 million to the annual consultant pay bill. Well, staying with that story, we're joined now by Dr. Peadar Gilligan, the president of the Irish Medical Organisation and a consultant in the emergency department in Beaumont. Dr. Gilligan, thanks for joining us this evening. Now, you were part of the negotiating team that reached this settlement with the state. Why did you feel you had to go to court at this point to settle this arrangement?
Because despite every other effort that we made with the state to try and address this issue, they weren't forthcoming in helping us to so do. And that left us with no option except to bring the state to court to address what was a significant wrong with regard to contractual rights. So the state had entered into a contract with consultants and for a 10-year period failed to honour that contract.
Now, given the state of many parts of the health service in the country at the moment, which you're obviously well aware of, working in the emergency department in Beaumont, and this is going to cost 200 million or so in back pay, 60 million every year in pay, should that money not be better spent going into capital investment in the health service?
Well, indeed, the health service needs very significant capital investment. But as noted by the Minister for Finance, this settlement is significantly less than, in fact, doctors were entitled to. It's just about 55% of the retrospective entitlement of doctors. And our hope in the Irish Medical Organisation is that money saved by the system will be used to help to deliver the hospital beds that we so desperately require in Ireland and to help us to address the waiting lists and, indeed, the patients on trolleys in the emergency departments throughout the country.
Did you receive any sort of commitment from the state that they would use that money for those reasons?
We were very hopeful that such a commitment would be forthcoming, however it was not. We were also very, very keen to address the issue of those consultants who have been appointed since 2012 who are on a significantly poorer terms and conditions despite having exactly the same contract except for the salary that they receive from that contract. We were very keen that the state would address this because we feel this is now the primary reason that we're unable to recruit consultants to the Irish hospital system, and that's why we have 450 consultant posts vacant in Ireland currently, which has a huge impact on our ability to deliver safe care and indeed safe, timely care in Ireland. So that has to be addressed, and we are ready, willing and able to engage with the government and the state to address that issue as soon as they're willing to sit down with us and discuss it. What I'm hopeful is that it won't take 10 years, because if it does, that will have a devastating impact on the health service.
Nevertheless, once this back pay is paid and the rates are restored, you will have colleagues working alongside each other where one is paid potentially up to 30% more than the other doing exactly the same job.
Absolutely, and that should not be the case. So obviously what needs to happen is those consultants appointed since 2012 need to have a very significant uplift in their salary. Remember, this was a failure to honour a contract, and then superimposed on that failure to honour a contract came the 10% cuts to new entrants, further cuts through the financial emergency measures in the public interest, and then on top of that again, for people since 2012, a 30% cut to their salaries, which is clearly hugely unfair and was specifically aimed at the consultant group in Ireland, which has had the impact, as I say, that it has had with regard to recruitment. And really, until we address that, we're going to continue with that challenge. So, as I say, the Irish Medical Organisation really want engagement from the state to address this, and the monies that have been saved by the significant settlement from the state's perspective, that money that has been saved to be used to address the needs of the health service and indeed the 2012 consultants who have been so disadvantaged.
Given those recruitment problems, we know how expensive it is to train doctors in this country, and then if those doctors, once they graduate, don't want to actually work here, is it time to maybe put a commitment in place so when student doctors graduate that they do actually will have to stay in Ireland for a set number of time to fill those vacancies?
I think that would be absolutely the wrong move for us to make as a country. First of all, I would like to acknowledge that Ireland is a centre of excellence with regard to the training of medical students, and we probably produce more medical students per capita than most other, if not all other OECD countries. The problem is we create a work environment that just is not attractive to doctors to continue in. So with the result that we have general practice posts around the country that are unfilled, we have consultant posts, as I say, 450 unfilled. We have challenges in recruiting to junior hospital doctor positions on an ongoing basis throughout the country. Some hospitals more affected than others, but there's a real challenge. And what we need to do is resource the system such that doctors want to continue to work here, because we absolutely know that Ireland is capable of producing terrific doctors, and they want the opportunity to provide the level of care that they're capable of so doing. But that requires resourcing the system. And as I say, the hospital beds, the investment in primary care that were hopefully promised through Sláinte Care, the investment in infrastructure that were promised through Sláinte Care.
All right, Dr. Gillian, we'll have to leave it there for this evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
The first Sinn Féin Ardèche under the new leadership team of Party President Mary Lou McDonald and Michelle O'Neill as Sinn Féin's leader in Northern Ireland is taking place in Belfast this weekend. Mary Lou McDonald will deliver her keynote speech tomorrow evening.
We're going to have a lively, engaging Ardèche. We have a huge number of delegates coming. Big issues to discuss, and our main theme is building a new Ireland, and where better to have that debate but here in Belfast.
And the suffragette colours?
The suffragette colours are the most appropriate colours for this year, in fact for any year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, our Northern editor Tommy Gorman joins us now from Belfast. Tommy, obviously abortion is going to be a very big issue this weekend for the Sinn Féin Ardèche. What else is on the agenda there though?
Well, the abortion question is due to be debated tomorrow. The party leadership would like to see provisions introduced in Northern Ireland that will mirror what's going to take place south of the border. Now, there is a counter-argument, some 24 common, including many of those around the constituency of Pather Tobin. They have put down a motion seeking that elected representatives would have a conscience clause that would allow them to vote against party policy or abstain from it in voting situations. When that came up in the past, it was defeated. That may be the situation again tomorrow, but there will be a debate about it, and that will be interesting to see, for instance, where people north of the border stand on the whole border question. Is there a difference, is there some shade of difference, say, between north and south within Sinn Féin? Also very interesting that this really is the first opportunity of the new leadership to put their stamp on the party. You heard the reference to the suffragette colours. The backdrop colours being used on stage tomorrow are purple as well as green. A very deliberate decision made by Mary Lou McDonald and Michelle O'Neill. Michelle O'Neill, in her speech that she's making just now, she's talking about the possibility of Mary Lou McDonald being Ireland's first female Taoiseach. And you can feel the momentum and the change that Mary Lou McDonald, the energy she has brought to the party. She's also stating that next week, the two of them, Mary Lou McDonald and Michelle O'Neill, are due to meet Theresa May in London. They're going to make their points to her about Brexit on Wednesday. They're also going to tell her that it's time for the British and Irish governments to call the Intergovernmental Conference to try and deal in the impasse at Stormont. And one final point, this is the third Sinn Féin Ardèche in 7 months. And if a general election happened to be called in the spring of next year, this would be the last Sinn Féin Ardèche before any such spring election. So you can expect very, very strong signals to be sent by Sinn Féin about their intentions in terms of coalition or attempting to get into government south of the border. They're going to send those strong signals in the address of Mary Lou McDonald tomorrow night.
It'll be an interesting weekend. Tommy, thanks very much indeed for that.
In England, a former army sergeant has been jailed for a minimum of 18 years for attempting to murder his wife by tampering with her parachute. The sentencing judge today described the man as an individual of quite exceptional callousness.
In April 2015, Emile Cilliers went into the toilets at Netheravon Airfield and sabotaged his wife's parachute. This reconstruction was shown to Winchester Crown Court to demonstrate that the crime could have been committed in just 5 minutes. Miraculously, Victoria Cilliers survived the 4,000-foot fall, but was badly injured. The court heard that it was Cilliers' second attempt to kill his wife. 6 days earlier, he had sabotaged a gas valve at their family home while the couple's children were in the house. Today, the presiding judge described the former army sergeant as callous, manipulative and dangerous. He said his crimes were carried out in cold blood for his own selfish purposes, which included financial gain.
He was massively in debt, he was juggling money, he was juggling payday lenders. As we said, he thought he was going to get £120,000 life insurance. He can then start his new life with his girlfriend.
After Cilliers was found guilty last month, his wife Victoria said she was still struggling to believe the court's verdict.
For her to understand and get her head around that, I can understand, must be extraordinarily hard, and she's lived with this for 3 years. I'm hoping the judge's summing up today of the very precise nature of how he did it and why he did it will help her bring some closure and understanding.
Emile Cilliers will now serve a minimum of 18 years in jail for twice trying to kill his wife and for recklessly endangering the lives of his children. Joan O'Sullivan, RTÉ News.
Well, today is Eid al-Fitr, a celebration for Muslims worldwide, which marks the end of Ramadan, a month of fasting. It's the start of a 3-day celebration for one of Ireland's fastest growing communities.
Late night prayers in the Black Pits Mosque in Dublin's south inner city. Earlier Muslims broke their fast on the last day of Ramadan to start the festival of Eid al-Fitr. The area is becoming known for its concentration of Muslim residents.
The Islamic community, mostly they prefer to live near the mosque. So we have 2 mosques very close, one in South Circular Road and one in the Black Pits. So the Muslim, they try to get the places near the mosque. It's easy for them to go for prayer.
Further up the street, Cloud9 Shisha Bar is welcoming a younger clientele. Many are young Muslims who've grown up here.
Eid al-Fitr for us as Muslims is like Christmas. Fortunately, as Muslims, we get 2 Christmases. It's another Eid later on in a few months. So today's a pretty big day, and as you can see, the turnout is pretty huge, and it's going to be a big late night. So
Ireland's biggest mosque is in Clonskee, South Dublin.
The community will come together mainly for prayer and then sharing some food and celebrations. The celebrations will continue on here in particular throughout the day, and then continues families visiting each other and events for the next few days.
The Muslim community is now one of the fastest growing groups nationwide. John Kilrain, RTÉ News, Dublin.
The Limerick-based Fidget Feet aerial dance company has performed on a number of public and historic buildings as part of the first ever vertical dance forum in Ireland. It's a Europe-wide project to bring contemporary dance to outdoor performance spaces.
Death-defying dance, and not for the faint-hearted. Members of the Fidget Feet aerial dance company based at the Irish World Academy in Limerick are turning public and historic buildings into their own dance floors. They were scaling the glass walls of the city's Strand Hotel, as well as the historic walls of the ancient King John's Castle. It's the first vertical dance forum of its kind in Ireland and part of an EU-funded project bringing contemporary dance to public places.
The exciting thing about being an aerialist is we can work outdoors, and we're bringing it to the people, and the people can watch us as we're creating, as we're making, and we change a space. When we perform on a space, we add something, we tell a story about that space, and then it changes that space for the audience.
It's a dream come true for native Limerick dancers, making their own history on the city's iconic buildings.
I never thought, growing up in Limerick, living in Limerick, that someday I'd be on King John's Castle doing vertical dance at an amazing international level with incredible people. And I think that it's something that it brings dance and stuff like that to the wider public.
Some of the world's top choreographers have come to Limerick for research, rehearsal and workshops as part of the forum.
Each country we do this type of meeting with different exercise, explorations. And here for us it's really nice to work on the castle, on a really historic building and also on a glass building wall.
The group will also be visiting outdoor natural landscapes like the Burren in County Clare to see what aerial dances can be created there. Cathy Halloran, RTE News, Limerick.
Now, still to come on the 6-1, the royal visit to the kingdom. A day of history, music and dance for the royal couple in County Kerry.
And in sport, we'll be live at the US Open. All the action from day 2 of the World Cup. And no place to hide. Roscommon prepares to host Galway in Sunday's Connacht football final.
Welcome back. The main news. Gardaí in County Louth are continuing to question an 18-year-old arrested in connection with the death of Cameron Riley in Dunleer last month. A murder investigation was launched after a post-mortem examination found the student had suffered a violent death.
Thousands of hospital consultants are set to receive significant pay increases now that their breach of contract case against the HSE and the state has been settled. The deal will cost the state €187 million in retrospective payments and will add €62 million to the annual consultant pay bill.
Britain's Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall had a busy programme of historical and cultural events during a visit to County Kerry today.
And arguably the best was saved until last. Royalty arrived in the kingdom, touching down just before 11 o'clock in Derrynane, where the tip of the Iveragh Peninsula kisses the Atlantic Ocean. The Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall journeyed here to pay homage to Daniel O'Connell, politician, international statesman and champion of human rights in the mid-19th century.
The Liberator, he was my great-great-great-grandfather. So I've been coming down here ever since I was a baby.
And what does today mean to you and your family?
It's wonderful. I mean, I think it means all sorts of things. It's wonderful that our ancestors being honoured, and I think the whole royal visit is a wonderful thing.
At Muckross House and Killarney National Park, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall retraced the steps Queen Victoria took here in 1861. And at nearby Killarney House, it was time to assess the success of the 4-day visit.
I think it's been a remarkable visit which has shown South West Ireland at its absolute best.
This is the end of the royal couple's 4-day visit to Ireland together. It's beginning to look like an annual event. Pascal Sheehy, RTE News, Killarney, County Kerry.
Watchers gathered early in Tralee, and despite being kept at a safe distance behind barriers, Kerry's spirits were high.
It's fantastic. It's wonderful for business and tourism, and there's a huge effort being made over the last number of weeks to get the place ready.
Sure, it's exciting, I suppose. To see somebody coming.
I'm here because I'm a Republican all my life, and today is the culmination of that moment, a time for peace.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Building bridges.
I think we'd like to see Harry coming and Meghan.
Yeah, Harry and Meghan, they're the stars. The newlyweds. We want to see what they think of Kerry, of Ireland, Tralee even. So for now we have the dad and Camilla.
Well, the soft Kerry rain subsided earlier and the sun has come out for the arrival of Prince Charles and Camilla to Shimshatira in Tralee, where they will be treated to a rousing performance of the very best in Irish music, song and dance.
Fado Fado is one of the longest running performances at Shimshatira, depicting rural life in Ireland 100 years ago. Prince Charles and Camilla received gifts of Falentia slate and a bowron. One of the VIP guests today was 93-year-old Kerry woman Kathleen O'Shea, who served in the Queen's Regiment.
I served in Germany
Singapore, AAA, Scotland, Northern Ireland and various parts of England.
You certainly did a lot with the Queen as your boss.
I did, yeah.
Prince Charles visited the biodiversity garden and sampled some local produce before leaving with parting words. At last I got a chance to see Kerry. Teresa Mannion, RTE News, Tralee, County Kerry.
Well, it's time for the weekend sports news now. Eamon's with us. Eamon.
Thanks, Keelin. Well, Spain will attempt to put a turbulent week behind them very soon. Spain take on Portugal in Group B. Kick-off there is at 7 o'clock. And a short time ago in the same group, Iran overcame Morocco, a late OG. The difference.
Here we go. Ajasafi. And it's in! They've scored in stoppage time. Well, well, well. Iran, in the dying seconds, have gone in front. Morocco 0, Iran 1. Super delivery. Bousafa got the final touch on it.
Good goal, mind you. Now to golf, and the second round of the US Open is underway after his nightmare opening round. Rory McIlroy will be hoping for a big improvement today. He's just about to tee off. But right now it's all about Dustin Johnson. Let's go live to the course. Here's Greg Allen.
Yeah, the world number one continues to lead here and also play with a kind of confidence and control of his game, which reflects his affinity for the US Open. He was the champion from 2 years ago, and he's followed up his first round of 69 with a second round of 67. And while so much of his round today was a study of conservative play, there were moments of brilliance, like this one on his 16th hole, a downhill putt of 45 feet, which trickled on and on down the slope with just about perfect pace. And the resultant birdie took him to 4 under par. And that's the mark he has posted, and already looks likely to be leading into tomorrow's third round. But Johnson's 67 is not the best round of the week, because England's Tommy Fleetwood shot a brilliant morning round of 66. He's moved into a tie for third place and 1 over par. And so the leaderboard reads like this: Johnson 4 under, 3 shots clear of Ian Poulter, who's just underway on 1 under. Then Fleetwood tied for third on 1 over, with among others Justin Rose and Henrik Stenson. Tiger Woods birdied his final hole for a round of 72 and on 10 over par. He's one of a number of leading players, possibly wondering how anybody could be shooting under par figures here. But there are other big name strugglers. John Rahm, 15 over par. Sergio Garcia, 14 over par. Jason Day, 9 over. And Jordan Spieth, 8 over, just about to start. Rory McIlroy, who'll be looking to shoot under par figures, maybe in the 60s, if he's to feel he's to have any chance of being around for the weekend after yesterday's 10 over par round of 80, is just about to get underway. A much better round today for Graham McDowell, a level par 70. He's on 9 over par. He could make the cut, but Shane Lowry on 13 over will miss the final 2 rounds. Greg Allen, RTE News at Shinnecock Hills.
The Ireland rugby squad trained in Melbourne ahead of tomorrow's second test against Australia. Ireland have made 8 changes, of course, for the match, including the return of out-half Johnny Sexton. Ireland are looking to bounce back after last weekend's disappointing 18-9 defeat. Second row James Ryan says Ireland need to be ready for a physical battle.
There's been definitely a bit of a spike to training this week. We spoke about last week, we think we lost too many collisions, so it's kind of a focus area for us this week to make sure that physically that we're up for it. This is, the Wallabies are the cream of the crop, so no surprises there, and it's going to be another big one tomorrow night.
Gaelic Games now, and for a third successive year, Galway and Roscommon will contest Sunday's Connacht football final. Roscommon go into the game as defending champions and, crucially, will be at home for Sunday's much anticipated showdown.
Much of the early debate about this year's Connacht football final has been about the venue. In 2016 it was played in Castlebar. Last year it was Galway's turn, and this year, and rightly so, it's Dr. Hyde Park in Roscommon.
As you can see, we have a beautiful pitch, and it would be a pity if we weren't able to host a Connacht final here. So I'm very confident and hopeful that everything will go well on the day.
So how big an advantage is home venue to the reigning Connacht champions and Division 2 winners?
It's huge for us, young team, an improving team, and there was a bit of controversy and a bit of, banter about it, and we were worried that it wouldn't be here. For confidence levels and for ease of mind and peace of mind for the players, I think it will be massive on Sunday.
It's actually quite a good mix of the team. You have young lads, you have kind of lads in the mid-20s, and then you have a few lads in the early 30s as well. So it's a good blend. Kevin's trying to instill a real good culture in the squad, and thankfully we're getting there, and we have a very strong bond within the squad, and that's a very important thing, especially going into championship.
Having lost last year's final to Roscommon, Galway will travel to the Hyde with plenty of motivation.
What we're going to go to set out to do is to perform. That's one thing we didn't do last year, so that's what we're going to be. If the performance is good enough on the day, then we will get the win.
The fact we're in a kind of final now, and it's nothing to be sneezed at. It's a cup, it's a trophy, and it's bragging rights and it's momentum. So, it's a great game to get.
This town will be buzzing on Sunday. A capacity crowd of 18,700 will attend Dr. Hyde Park just down the road from here for this year's Connacht final. It's the third year in a row these counties are meeting in the final. Galway won in 2016, Roscommon last year. It's all to play for. Marty Morrissey, RT News, Roscommon.
Plenty of action tonight in the Electricity League Premier Division. Table toppers Cork City face Bohemians. And that is all your sports news for now, so it's back to you once more, Caitríona.
Thanks, Eamon. Well, a look at the main news again this evening. Gardaí and County Louth are continuing to question an 18-year-old arrested in connection with the death of Cameron Riley in Dunleer last month.
A murder investigation was launched after a post-mortem examination found that the student had suffered a violent death.
And that's the 6-1 News for today. From all of the team, thanks for watching.
We'll be back with you at the same time on Monday, but until then, have a super weekend.